Well, hi everyone. My name is Christine Galib. I'm the Senior Director of Accelerator Programs at the ION, and I direct the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. And I'm here today with Steve Jennis, who is one of our powerhouse mentors for Cohort 1. I'd love to turn it over to him as we have a conversation here, just featuring some of Steve's wisdom and perspectives to help us get through this time of COVID-19. So with that, Steve, tell us a little bit more about what you do when you're not mentoring for the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator.
Well, thanks, Christine, and let's start off by thanking you for doing this. I think everybody's mental health needs a little bit of tender loving care right now, and fun things like this, fun and serious at the same time, are great help. So well done. Just on me, well, I still have a real job. I run my own consulting business. I've got a number of long-term clients, keep me very busy. But my real passion nowadays, after almost 40 years as a technology manager, business manager, entrepreneur, is to help the next generation, if you like, to leverage my wisdom, if you'd call it that, or experience, if not, and learn from the past to some extent, but also because I've been in technology, the past is never, well, it's always very fresh, and the future is always very current. So that's what I do, and I try to make as much time as I can to free up for the mentoring whilst also keeping the lights on at home. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love that you brought up the past. Obviously, I'm wearing one of my favorite shirts, The Great Gatsby, where, of course, the main character is forever trying to repeat the past, but realizes that, you know, we can't really repeat the past. And, you know, as you're setting the stage for our conversation today, it's important that we not repeat the past, that we learn from our past experiences. So just on that note, speaking of the past, how have the past few weeks been for you? It's been a challenging time for many people, and I'm curious to hear, you know, how you've been able to manage the past few weeks, what your number one tip from working from home might be, and maybe even something that you're really proud of that you've accomplished over the past few weeks.
Well, I think you're right to reference the past, Christine, because, you know, I've been through 4 or 5 economic disruptions by now in my past career, and we can learn from each of them, but not rely on them all to show us the way forward. So I'll come back to that a little bit later in the Q&A. But I think the last few weeks, what I really enjoy about mentoring are the coffee shop chats, the lunch once a week or twice a week, getting out face to face with people who are bright and ambitious and energetic, and doing that virtually is not quite the same. You know, you don't get that connection. So I really miss that, and that's been the hardest part for me. I've worked from home effectively for nearly 20 years. I worked for a lot of companies not based in the Houston area, not even based in the States. So working from home is no big deal for me, but not having the variety of the occasional face-to-face cappuccino, you know, salmon and lentils, whatever you prefer for lunch, that takes away a lot from my enjoyment of the role. So I'm just gritting my teeth and trying to get through on that basis. So it's tough on everyone, but there are bright spots as well. In terms of your second question there, what's the one thing I could recommend about working from home? I would say get an Apple Watch and set it up so that it tells you when to stand up and when to take a break and when to rest your eyes and anything else it can do to help you manage your physical health. Okay, it doesn't help much with your mental health. Come back to that later. But in terms of physical health, I think having a little wearable assistant that reminds you from time to time that you've been sitting down for 3 hours straight, you know, it's too easy now. It's too easy to sit in front of a screen and go from conference call to conference call, from Zoom to Zoom, from webinar to webcast, and you've got to make time for yourself to just breathe, whether that's indoors or outdoors. So that's it. And the third element there, I think the next question on your list, if I'm preempting it, is how can we help, or what lessons can we bring to bear on the current situation? So would you like to address that?
Yep. I'd love to. That's next on my list. Great minds are staying on track here. And I think you've said a lot that we can think about with respect to physical wellness, mental wellness, and let's maybe turn our conversation now to focusing a little bit more on what the COVID-19 pandemic has meant for your business, for the consulting practices that you've adopted and you continue to use with your clients. Let's turn the spotlight on that. So let's talk about maybe if you've been innovative or adopted any new approaches to the work that you do, some of the challenges that you think that we'll face as a result of COVID-19 going forward, and ways that we can start mitigating those challenges from now.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that I do when I'm talking to people about the current situation, particularly people who are entrepreneurs and founders and innovators, is to say, look, this isn't the first time we've had disruption. We had the dot-com boom and bust. We had the oil price crash in 2003. We had 9/11. We had the capital freeze in 2008. These things come along, and sometimes our dreams are a bit battered, and we have to adjust, but we get through them. And it's not how often you're knocked down; it's how you react. It's how you get up and carry on. And obviously, there's a lot of unpleasant times and a lot of stress. But what I try to do with people starting businesses or growing young businesses is to say, look, calm down. It's not the end of the world. We'll get through this. It will be painful for a while, but let's just step back, look at the reality. If you've got a cash crisis, we'll deal with it. Okay. Don't get a mental health crisis as well, for goodness sake. Don't compound the difficulties. If you have to turn to government assistance in terms of low interest or even free loans to get through this and keep people employed, let's have a look at that. Let's not panic, okay? Because the worst thing somebody can do in a position of leadership is to really lose it, in terms of getting overstressed, ill, and not taking things forward, in a rational way. So I think that's the lesson to learn. It's not the first time and it's not the last time. Let's just take a deep breath and deal with the issues and move forward. Because the last thing we want to do is lose our dreams, right? That's what we have to keep alive, even though in the short term, it might be a lot more difficult than we expected. But, to bottom line, if you're an entrepreneur, it's always more difficult than you expected anyway. So, and there's always bad news with the good. So let's learn to live with it. And if you bounce back, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, we'll move forward. And 6 months from now, hopefully we can look back with lessons learned.
I love your thoughts there, and many things that you mentioned, I really take to heart. One of them is this notion of not losing our dreams. And I think we've certainly seen how various technologies can help us chase our dreams and then execute our dreams. So that point is very well taken. One of my follow-up questions to that point is, how can we at this time really help each other keep chasing our dreams? Whether that's from a mentor perspective, from a leadership perspective, from a startup's perspective, how can we come together really as not just the Ion Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerators family, but almost as a community of Houstonians that have typically faced hardship before by rolling up our sleeves and just getting to work and getting it done?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said earlier, and you implied, things are never exactly the same as they used to be. You know, Hurricane Ike wasn't the same as Tropical Storm Harvey, you know, and we dealt with them in different ways. And these crises all have an individual imprint on us. So we can't just take the playbook. You know, we just can't say, well, this is how to deal with this. Okay, we have to be nimble, agile, mentally alert, and work our way through it, you know. And I think there's two things I'd settle on there is at the peer level, you know, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, people like yourself with the ION, Capital Factory, whoever, you know, there it's all about mutual support. It's all about virtual happy hours. It's all about, you know, motivation. You know, we're all in it together. Let's just keep rowing, you know, even if the boat's leaking a bit, let's just keep rowing and get where we're going. On the other side, people like myself, I think we can come in with a little bit of calm experience and say, look, yes, this sucks, okay, but let's just take one step at a time and get through it the best way we can and not throw our hands up, run off screaming that we've never seen this before. You know, we hadn't seen 9/11 before. We hadn't seen 2008 before. We hadn't seen the dot-com boom and bust before, but we got through them. And at each time the recovery comes in its own way and the startup community carries on, you know, things keep getting created. You know, Facebook came after 9/11, you know, Google was very young at the time of the dot-com crash. You know, there's a huge amount of opportunity out there that will come back in time. It might be a few months, but it will come and we've got to be ready for it.
I love that. And as you were talking, one of my favorite kind of slogans came to mind: keep calm and carry on. And yeah. I think that's kind of the message that I think we'll leave our listeners with, and we'll leave our viewers with that message as well. Is there anything else that we didn't address that you might want to add? We've got about 30 seconds or a minute or so left of this little vlog, and I'd love any closing thoughts.
Just one last thought, apart from thanking you again for setting this up and encouraging everyone to be as active online as they can be in these times of inactivity physically. But the thing is that I was going to say is that, you know, there is going to be a time in the future when we'll look back on this and say that some good came out of it. We don't know what that is right now. It's hard to see the good amongst all the bad, but I predict that a year from now, there will be good that we'll look back on, whether it's environmental awareness, whether it's, you know, healthcare. There will be some good that comes out of this. And the other thing I'd leave you with is that, you know, at times like this, being innovative and energetic and entrepreneurial is rewarded, because nobody knows the rules, okay? If you can stay agile, plan for the future, don't get locked into one plan. Who knows how long travel restrictions will be in place? Who knows if we'll have a second wave of the virus? You know, we have to stay agile, flexible, but we have to remain positive. And a year from now, we'll look back on this and say, well, it wasn't all bad, even if it looks all bad right now.
Steve, I love that. And as usual, as always, our conversations not only inspire me with the wealth of wisdom that you provide, but also they really make me think of the purpose for why we do everything that we do, and that's to help each other. And so I want to thank you so much for your pragmatic and practical and inspirational advice, as well as your time. Thank you to our guests, and thank you to everyone who is watching. This has been 10 minutes of Tech Gab, and I am Christine Galib, the Senior Director of Accelerator Programs at the ION, as well as the Director of the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. Thank you all for your time today. I'm signing off. Catch you next time.